Today we're going to focus on a slightly different variation of networking, that of interpersonal networking, or if you want to give it the topic a title, the power of extending your reach. And with us is Don Saracen. As I said, there are many variations of how one goes about networking, but I think you want to talk to us today about the more interpersonal approach.
Absolutely. Interpersonal, face-to-face. And I call it the 3 C's, how people connect, communicate, and collaborate.
Right. So how does one go about doing that in a world where everyone seems to be obsessed with the virtual, you know, being online or even attending meetings, but where there's less of that personal approach?
You know, as far as technology goes, I think it's great, and I call them powerful tools because, you know, people are online, they have Facebook or LinkedIn, things of that nature. But they're tools, they're not the ultimate. And I think your goal, especially if you're looking for a job, is that you want that face-to-face interview.
Absolutely.
And you want to be prepared for that. And so there are many ways you can go about that.
Right. Tell us a few of them.
Well, I have 5 points that I deal with. I call it preparation, content, delivery, time, and execution. All right. And of course, I think in our lives, preparation has always been important with everything we've done. So be it if it's, you know, you're developing with education or anything, an instrument, the better you're prepared, the more confident you are, and it comes through.
Right. And if you could go through the whole list then?
Content is, you know, what is the message? And the message would be you. You are the brand.
Right.
So it's important to maybe have a little self-analysis as far as who you are and what is your message, and to be able to understand that clearly.
Are you a believer of the 30-second elevator pitch? Or, you know?
Well, first of all, 30 seconds I think is maybe a bit long.
Long?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say too short.
Yeah. Well, you know how, you know, people have asked me this, and the way I look at it is that if you were to look at the Boston Globe, as an example, I'm giving a pitch for the Boston Globe, but first, you know, you have the headline. And that's the grabber, and it could be short and simple. So, and then you would have the subtitle, and then you have the text. So if you looked at, you know, first the title, and you'd say, okay, well, what do you do? And I would say, you know, I connect people for life. What does that mean? You want to know more? Then I'd say, well, I work with corporations, you know, nonprofits and individuals such as yourself to improve their networking skills.
Right.
That leads you to the full text.
Right, but already I'm seeing that is because you're assuming you're face-to-face with someone who has time for you.
Exactly.
But I believe the elevator pitch originated with the concept that if you had 30 seconds in an elevator, literally, and you had to grab someone's attention, you'd have to have your piece good to go.
Right.
Right. So we're coming back to the sort of old school way of doing it, I would say, where people had more contact with each other. And are you sort of trying to recreate or bring back some of the good old ways of doing things?
Well, you know, I think it's very important. I mean, if you take a look at statistics and you look at the U.S. Statistics on jobs, people by far, I think it's over 70%, get jobs through contacts, networking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I think we're starting to lose a little bit of that because a lot of people are so dependent on social networking with those powerful tools, but they don't see it as complementary. They think it as an end-all, and I don't believe it is.
Can we go on with that list of yours, your initial list?
Right. Content, delivery, and it's how you deliver it. And you know, as being in television, is being able to make eye contact, facial expressions, and
body
to
language
be relaxed.
Altogether.
Yeah, exactly. They have what they call the 3 V's. I don't know if you've heard of this. A number of years ago, they had a survey out in the West Coast, and they were trying to understand believability. And it came down to, they called it the 3 V's. So it was verbal, vocal, and visual. Right. So verbal was the content, the message of your content. Vocal, the vocal variety, the intonation. And visual was the third piece. And by far, visual, as far as believability came through.
Right.
You know.
Because they say you make your impression of a person within the first, was it 2 seconds or?
The blink.
You know, so you've got to make an impression. Okay, and then next on your list? Preparation,
content, delivery, which you mentioned. Time, which is very important. You don't want to be overbearing with your time when you meet people. You want to respect their time, and if they want to extend it, then you allow that to happen. Right. So it's important to be concise, to the point, be able to interact with people, but respect their time.
So what are some of your tips for making those contacts, apart from people you know in your immediate circle?
Right. Well, it goes back to the initial being prepared. And the better you understand who that target audience is, we'll say it's a corporation, you were talking about a business, who are the key players? And how can you possibly, you may have friends, relatives, or someone who knows someone in there, or you don't, then, take a look at their website and understand who's on their board. There may be some kind of contact or connection that you can leverage, but you have to think creatively. I've been talking about interpersonal communications, networking, for the last few years because I really believe in it, and I think there's a whole younger generation that does a great job with technology and they're intelligent, but they're losing this contact,
I
and
agree.
I'm trying to bring it back.
Right. I think we run the risk of becoming a very robotic society, whereby everything is virtual and what's the opposite of interpersonal? I mean, everything is removed. So I think you could be starting a new trend here because life is very cyclical. Right. Things go in cycles. So maybe in a few years when all the hype is worn out, we will come back to because these are basics we're talking about, the basics of human communication.
Yeah, what's interesting, there's a professor down in Salve Regina University, he made this quote. He said, you're connected, talking about hyperconnectivity, you're connected and yet you're alone.
Right.
And I thought that was a profound
statement. Very nice. And then what about the 6 degrees of separation?
Well, you may know the background of that. Actually, I think it was from Newton, Mass. There was an idea, a professor, and they sent some information out to turn around and identify how many steps it would take to get to somebody. Right. And I still think that holds true, even in this day and age. So technology can put you together with other people that maybe you know or don't know, but ultimately I think you're looking at that personal engagement.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, we are beginning to fear picking up the phone because we're so into typing and communicating, through the computer.
Right.
But we must not forget that the voice matters. Even picking up a phone, let alone meeting someone face to face, is probably the way to go.
Right. I just had a business recently, and they said, well, they were going to cut back, and they were going to just basically email and things of that nature. I said, but you can't turn around and find out what's happening at a company unless you go there, once in a while, to get the feel of what's happening, because their perception and reality could be two different things.
Right.
I drive in and see the parking lot is half full, then that tells me something.
Sure.
I could never learn that by technology.
True.
Yeah.
True. Well, thank you very much for sharing those insights, Don.
My pleasure.
And I'm glad that there are still people like you in the world. I like to call us perhaps old school people who believe, in the old way of doing things alongside with technology. But I think you have a very good message there.
Good.
Thank you for talking to us.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.